the latest gambling scandal that has broken in the NBA, 18 months after Jonte Porter was banned from the NBA for life. We have fresh allegations involving Terry Rozier with his time, connected to his time with the Charlotte Hornets. And we have a coach in Chauncey Billups dragged into all this, along with Damon Jones, a former NBA player who is involved in multiple scandals here. So give me your reaction, I guess, to everything you've seen over the course of the last 12 hours involving the NBA and a brand spanking new gambling scandal.
Man, it's shocking. Very, very shocking. Terry Rozier was my rookie in Boston. And, when the scandal first came out a couple months ago, I just didn't believe it because when I knew Terry, I knew he's a kid that worked hard. He loved basketball and just loved to compete. So, just with anything, playing devil's advocate, I gave him the benefit of the doubt from what I knew of him because I'm like, man, this kid loves to compete and he loves to win. And, basketball's done so much for us, you know what I mean? And when it comes down to it and how it's changed our lives, you never would think somebody will ever play with that game. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of shocking. It's kind of like heartbreaking. I know I spoke to a couple of my buddies in the league and even Tatum, he was just like, man, it's just tough to see because we work so hard. The game is so important. And people are just messing around and, taking it for granted. And, like I said, it's aside from what can come about it, it's just truly, heartbreaking because, the game is so rewarding and it's treated so well.
Are you surprised that we're starting to see this more and more in the NBA? Look, when you were playing, this kind of sports gambling wasn't as available. You could still do it. You had bookies. You could go to Vegas. There's lots of things that you could do. But you couldn't pick up your phone in Boston and place a bet, hours before a game, or you didn't have people associated with you, placing the kind of bets that people associated with Terry Rozier were allegedly playing. I mean, but the reality is, ET, is like gambling's been a part of the fabric of the NBA for a long time. I mean, you could speak to it like, how many plane rides have you been on where thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars have changed hands?
I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars have changed hands. And I mean, it's been part of an NBA circle. I don't know so much of betting games and fixing games. This is kind of like an ugly little, dirty little secret, man. It's crazier than like the Chris Herron story of like the habit, like, a drug habit or whatever. And it's, anytime it's getting mob related, and this isn't like the NBA checking into it, the FBI, Patel's in it, like Trump, everybody, that our government is involved in seeing what really happened. And, you see the reaction back in the day, Shoeless Joe, when he fixed the World Series. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to have to go into, as an NBA, as a league, we built our reputation and we built our brand so much and so heavy from the days of being recognized as thugs or whatever negativity that came with that. And now, like, we're going to have to brace ourselves for a scandal, a probe on seeing if our game was clean or not. And that's piled up with some other underlying stuff is going to be detrimental, and we're going to have to work our way out of it. And as well as anything, sponsorships and growing the game is huge, especially on this level of just basic competition when it's getting compared to American basketball and overseas basketball. You understand what I'm saying? It's just another thing we don't need to be distracted by, especially considering, we have to get ready for 2028,
Yeah, and you mentioned the government being involved. And I think for something like this to come out, the government kind of has to be involved. Like, I saw Terry Rozier's attorney speaking today, and he was basically trying to dismiss this as old news, that the NBA investigated it and they cleared Terry and he was back on the Heat bench this season. But the NBA would be the first to tell you, and they did tell me today, like, our investigations, by definition, are incomplete. We don't have subpoena power. We don't have the ability to speak to the kind of people in the gambling underworld that NBA or that government officials have the ability to do. Like this story, when I read the 23-page indictment, This story breaks open when you start to read about all the associates of Terry Rozier, the friends that he was around, and the people that were involved outside of the basketball world. I mean, the NBA can order Terry to talk to him. They can order him to hand over his phone. They can order every member of the organization he's with to speak to them and their investigators, but they can't go out and investigate these things. That's why when I heard that attorney say it doesn't matter. Those are just words. Those are just words.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. Like, as much as my buddy Andre Iguodala is the head of the players union, but he can't go to, you know what I mean, East Flint or wherever and try to shake down a gambling or a mob boss like the FBI can, because when it comes down to it, like, they can do deeper diving and see what's sufficient or insufficient information. And like we said, this is something serious, and it's just a start. And anytime the FBI come knocking on your door, they're just getting your bed ready for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you mentioned Andre, who is now the head of the Players Union, a friend of yours, a guy you did a podcast with for a long time. What do you think he thinks about all this? Because he's been an influential player as a player and now as a retired player in the role that he's in. What do you think his thoughts are?
Yeah, I think one thing that people don't, I guess, probably recognize from when we first went through the lockout in like 2011, Dre was one of the main people on the board that was trying to help reshape the league, make sure we get our just due and make sure our CBA is like respectable. Even when he took over the president for the union, you know how he skimmed the trim from the top and saved so much money in that situation as well. So I think one thing that he loves the most is the game and the future of the game. So I mean, he's not really, I don't think he's really into this or really happy to really be going about this, because most importantly, we can identify with the people involved. And, just, he's a purist. Like, to disrespect the game that's done so much for us is like, none of that sounds good. And once again, we're more so worried about the brand that we've been building so much. We're one of the most popular sports in the world now, and we're only going here, and we have to continue to go this way, as opposed to, everybody being sacrificed for some nonsense that maybe 3 or 4 people did. You know what I mean?
And one of the questions that I've gotten a lot over the last 12 hours or so is why someone like Terry Rozier and why someone like Chauncey Billups would get involved in stuff like this. It's one thing for Jontay Porter, a two-way player for a long time who wasn't making a lot of money, by comparison in the NBA, to get mixed up in stuff like this. Terry Rozier going to the season, his career earnings were $135 million. Chauncey Billups had, a 17, 18-year NBA playing career, a broadcasting career, a successful coaching career, made tens of millions of dollars during that time, maybe hundreds of millions, who knows?
Yeah.
And the question I get is, why would somebody that on paper has made that much money be involved in stuff like this? What do you think the answer is to that question?
Right. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, to be completely honest with you. I've never, man, I'll be honest with you, I do a lot of dumb stuff, but I stay out the way, bro. So, like, I can't answer that question. I think one thing that occurs is a cipher. I believe Chauncey Billups, his was poker, right? It wasn't anything in regards to the game of basketball. It was poker.
It's two things. One, it was mostly his involvement in mafia-run poker games. But in the initial indictment, there was some language there about a coach who played the exact number of years Chauncey did, who lives in Oregon, supplying information to someone who bet on the Blazers tanking a game in March of 2023. So he's primarily looked at as the focus of this investigation involving the mafia poker games, but it's also trickling down into this gambling stuff as well.
Wow. Oh man, I really don't know. I'm kind of sitting on pins and needles to see why as well. Like you said, it's not like it's Jontay Porter. This is a $135 million player. This is a coach that not only has made a lot of money, but has led a lot of teams, a lot of locker room filled with men where, in my book, Chauncey was a high character individual. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the leader he was, a big game Chauncey, like, he took out the Lakers. Like, all this is just shocking. I don't really have an answer to it. I guess the one thing I do appreciate is not like a death or, you know what I mean, some type of crazy domestic violence or anything wild like that, but it's definitely terrible.
I think the NBA now, ET, has two problems. I want to get your take on both of them. Number one is the perception problem, the PR problem, because, you know, most of the players in the league are not involved in stuff like this, are not stuffing or unstuffing statistics in order to satisfy, you know, gamblers. But there's going to be a lot of people that look at the league now and watch a player commit a stupid turnover or watch a team fumble a lead down the stretch and wonder if the game is on the up and up. How big a problem do you think that's going to be for the NBA moving forward?
I just think that's so trendy. You know what I mean? I just think that's America's using their First Amendment right just to talk about stuff they have no clue about. Like every time something happens in my life, man, I call it a conspiracy. You know what I mean? So you can't really take that so much. The people are still going to show up and watch the show, and the degenerates are still going to bet. So I don't think it's the case. It's no different than 5 years ago when I screamed that the NBA was rigged and all this. Like, you know what I mean? It's conspiracy theories. And at the end of the day, I mean, you have to be dumb to do it now. The eyeballs are on it, you know? And at the end of the day, sometimes that's just a game, bro. The game of basketball is just crazy. It's crazy pace, crazy runs. You see the Houston Rockets game the other day. They're leading for 2 quarters and then come down a minute and 20 seconds left. They get into like 12 more minutes of basketball, you know?
You know, what I think this is going to push the NBA to do, again, is to work even harder to get prop bets out of these gambling companies. Like, this has been the bane of Adam Silver's existence for the last few years. And look, Adam was at the forefront of, you know, the movement to legalize sports gambling. Wrote that op-ed like 10 years ago, said this should be, you know, put into the mainstream, legalized, you know, in part because, like, they did want to catch guys in the act. And I think that's something the NBA would say, that, like, as bad as this is, these are examples of the system working, right? Like, these bets were placed, the gambling companies alerted the league, alerted the federal government, and, you know, as difficult as it is to process in real time, maybe it's a good thing to have guys like Chauncey Porter and Terry Rozier busted, and maybe it serves as a deterrent for guys down the line to not do it. I would think at this point, Evan, like, having Porter banned for life. Look, if Rozier is guilty of any of this, he's going to get banned for life. Yeah. Same thing with Chauncey Billups. Like, really, at this point, if you get involved in this type of activity, you've got to be deep, deep in the hole with somebody, or you've got to be a special level of stupid, because these companies and the government has shown that they do have a net out there that can catch you in it.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And whatever we can do just to clean the game up. Like I said, we've taken too much, you know, progress and too many leaps since the 2011 lockout to really build a brand. And there's just too much money going around right now. Like, everybody's making $25 million. Like even when you look at the mafia related, like, just play the game and be fat and happy. You understand what I'm saying? And stay out the way, because I think, once again, the most important thing is the branding and how we continue to carry that. And I just think it's going to be tough to really gauge or kind of suppress the gambling, because even when you watch the game the other night, they had the two, every time out they're showing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's numbers and what DraftKings is saying he's going to do and what Kevin Durant's numbers are and Şengün, and it's just keeping the degenerates, like, you know, feeding. And I think it goes hand in hand, because historically, when you look at the numbers, people aren't really watching whole basketball games anyway.
I think you make a good point on the value. There is value in sports gambling, in prop bets even. Like, there's value in engagement, I think. I don't gamble on basketball, but I do gamble, like, if I'm at a hockey game and I don't know shit about hockey, like, and if I'm in the middle of like a 4-0 game in the third period, you bet your ass if I'm in a legal gambling zone, I'm betting on like Anaheim to go 1.5 against Boston or something. Like, it just engages me more. It gets me into it. Like, it makes me care more about the outcome of that game. I think there's value there, but prop bets have made it so easy for a player to just say, you know what? I've been a little banged up. I can say my hamstring's re-aggravated and come out. Then I can tell 3 of my friends to, bet the under on my game, which it sounds like Rozier was doing. Rozier's problem was that, the people that he was around put so much money into it. This wasn't like $5,000.
It was trails and all that. And it's like, well, what are y'all paying for, the All-Star vacay? You know what I mean? It was like dudes are trying to get mortgages for houses with what they were gambling.
It does make me think and wonder how deep Terry was in with the wrong kind of people, how deep Chauncey was in with the wrong kind of people, because these guys should not be in the financial position to have to deal with stuff like this. The other thing that I've been talking to people about today is the second day story and the blast radius of some of these allegations. And look, I think the NBA is deeply bothered by Chauncey Billups and everything that happened, but they can see it being compartmentalized. They're deeply bothered by Terry Rozier, but they can see it being compartmentalized to Terry Rozier and the things that he did. What they don't know about yet is how big the blast radius is around Damon Jones. And I wrote about this today, E.T. How Damon Jones...
He's going to get us all indicted.
There are people that believe Damon Jones is the biggest liability the NBA has right now, because you saw in that indictment, Damon Jones reached out to LeBron James. It's all but spelled out in that indictment. The Lakers player who was a former teammate and a guy that was coached by Damon Jones. That's LeBron. He reached out to LeBron James and found out if he was playing or not in a February 2023 game. Now, nobody's accusing LeBron of anything nefarious, and I can certainly, I don't know about you, but I can certainly envision a scenario where LeBron hears from Jones, and Jones like, hey, man, you playing tonight? LeBron's like, no, I'm banged up. I broke the record the other night, so I'm just going to take tonight off. I don't think LeBron... Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There's stuff that Jason tells me where or a friend tells me, Dame might tell me, and it's it's just off trust. It's like, hey, what's up, bruh? Of course you're not going to call a mafia bookie and use this information.
Well, not even a mafia bookie. I bet you can answer this. How many times in your life have you received information that would have been valuable for gambling? I'm guessing it's dozens of times, hundreds of times.
It's never even crossed my mind. Do you understand what I'm saying? A million times. When I sit there, I could be at my butt, kicking with my buddy at night before the game and being like, yo, can you walk? Do you understand what I'm saying? And being like, man, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I've never done it, but I can also see how LeBron can just nonchalantly just tell Damon Jones, hey, nah, I'm not playing, bro. I'm out. I probably told him that was the least of the concerns of what he told him. He probably told him some far off other crazy stuff. And it's he would have never guessed Damon would be telling people. That's just, the consequences. Going to go sell drugs. The consequences. We're told numerous times about gambling in this league. So it's, and then what did Damon say? He said, man, make sure you bet enough for D Jones to get a taste, right?
Yeah.
That was man.
The text message.
Oh man, Damon. Yeah, they got the right one, man.
Well, and Damon Jones, he wasn't in LeBron's inner circle in the same way that Rich Paul is and Maverick Carter is, but for a while he was on that next rim. He was right there on the outside. He was a coach on those Cavaliers staffs for 4 years. He was, as the indictment suggests, kind of an unofficial coach in Los Angeles. So he had access to a lot of that information that LeBron may have unwittingly, forked over to him. And my point is, Damon Jones played for 10 NBA teams. Damon Jones was a pretty well-liked guy by my recollection by a lot of people.
Everybody loved him.
By a lot of people in the league. It wouldn't surprise me at all to learn in the weeks and months ahead that, hey, Damon Jones reached out to player X on Team Y and got similar information or did that. I think the NBA's greatest concern right now is finding out in the weeks ahead that Damon Jones has been asking everybody for information. Not that these guys were giving it to him on purpose, but wrapping up a whole bunch of teams and a whole bunch of players in sports gambling because he knows everybody, he talked to everybody, and they use that information for gambling reasons.
Yeah, because you've been to the games during shoot-arounds and stuff. It's basically just meeting up with when you coach, you're basically just bumping into people you've been playing versus for the past 25 years. And you're hearing like the information behind the scenes where it's like, hey, is this star player really cool? Or is this guy really this? Or is this really that? And it's like, you get all free info is free game. And, yeah, that's what you really have to worry about. Seeing how many more people, you know what I mean, gave up some frivolous info that got used in a, malicious way.
Yeah. So if you're part of if you're Andre Iguodala and you're part of the hierarchy of the players union, and Adam Silver comes to you and says, hey, we got to do something. What do you think can be done here to prevent stuff like this from happening? Is there anything that can be done? Like, can you ban gambling on planes? Can you ban any form of gambling? Right now, players are allowed to gamble in legal markets. Like, you go to Vegas, you can go gamble there. If you want to gamble on other stuff on your phone, you can go do that. Is there anything you think players would accept in the aftermath of this latest round of allegations?
No, I don't think there's anything that players would accept because I think like there's 350 other players like, yo, I didn't do this. Like, I'm not the same way I'm not supposed to take steroids. I don't gamble. Like, handle those individuals the way you're supposed to handle those individuals, And I think with Andre, as much as we have taken leaps and bounds for progressing the game, you don't overly want to start doing stuff where it's an NBA dress code at this point, and we're trying to appease a bunch of people that can't, like, we have to dress up in suits and the average Joe walking in didn't wash his jeans all year. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Or it's like gambling. It's like, hey, bro, there's a group of men showing up to their 7-year-old softball games, gambling every play. So it's like, no, let's be adults. Let's be men. And if you get busted, you get busted. You understand what I'm saying? I just don't see it. You can maybe move gambling on planes, but we don't glorify that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's not like it's a thing. The one thing that got caught up is public gambling, and we have TV shows, some of our biggest players and, Jordan, everybody, like, that's how people like to relax is gambling, hitting the casinos, enjoying themselves.
Yeah. And look, I don't think the NBA is going to go hard to target that. I think the NBA, I think number one, I think they'll continue to go at the gambling companies to try to reduce the number of prop bets that are available. I say good luck with that. Like, once the genie's out of the bottle, the genie's out of the bottle. You're not going to get these guys to do it, especially when their counter argument will be like, hey, when bad stuff happens, we catch it and we bring it to your attention. So I don't think they'll do that. And look, I think the NBA is just going to hope that, like I said earlier, this latest example is enough to stop someone that might be thinking about doing it, knowing that the technology exists, that you do this, you're going to get busted. Simple as that. You put too much money on this, they're going to catch you.
Yeah, and also it's just an example. Like, it's not perfect, 'cause I don't like this for anybody, but you got a player that's going to be, I guess, have it demonstrated on. You're going to have a coach that's going to be demonstrated on, and it's like, hey, this is real. This is how we're going to handle it moving forward. So it's not even just the players, everybody involved. Like, sometimes, man, we worry so much about the guys on the floor and the guys up top, you getting away with murder. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, let's just nip it in the bud and everybody, contain what they can contain.